Hello, hey, welcome back. Week 7, chapter 7, depending on how you're using the book. Equanimity. Now, we've spoken about equanimity before. We looked at the outside our comfort zone. We've got the safety mechanisms, but we've also got change and the values of that. So both of these, rather than being positive and negative, we could both see them as value, and that's the thing that, the underlying thread through this is that there's no good and bad, no positive or negative. It's just, okay, what is the value that I can, derive from this? This equanimity is in relation to emotions, because sometimes when we look at emotions, we have this real push-pull type of relationship with it. The only reason why we have a push-pull relationship with it is because the evolutionary part of the mind looks at things as we avoid sticks and we chase carrots. So carrots are reward, sticks are discomfort. So naturally, the mind labels them, and the sticks need to get away, that discomfort, don't really want to experience that, but I want more reward. Okay? So we've got a bit of an exercise there that talks about the push and pull nature of our emotions, and we naturally push away anger, loss, sadness, guilt, sometimes even love and peace and happiness, things like that, depending on who you're talking to. But then there's this pulling towards of, all of these happiness type things. But in saying that, with some people that I've worked with, they actually pull towards themselves loss and powerlessness and guilt because they believe they are undeserving. Interesting, isn't it? So a beautiful poem there by Rumi. Absolutely love Rumi. So have a look at the emotions, have a look at the push and the pull, write some stuff down, go through that yourself. And then there's this really interesting concept called the emotional guidance system. Now this was introduced to me by Abraham Hicks, and we start to look at the cascade of truth. Now remember that there's a thought comes before the emotion. Most of the times we're not that quick in picking up the thoughts, but we'll pick up the emotion. So, there's a classic of, in this moment, try to feel anger without attaching it to a thought. Now, what you'll probably find, and most likely find, is that, well, I can't get angry, I need to get angry about something. You go, okay, what about guilt? Well, I need to feel guilty about something. So, the emotion is actually preceded by a thought. What are the thoughts that preceded the emotion? So I can become aware of emotions, and then I can inquire into what was the thought that preceded that. And that's going to give you an idea of your script, how you're judging things, how you're reading your world, and how you're reading your life as well. Now, when we start to look at it from the perspective of negative emotions that are related to self or others, what I'd really like to start to introduce to you is through the concept of, well, how would I be able to see this through the eyes of love? Okay? And this is where we're starting to move you in the chapters of the book. So as I start to notice a negative emotion about self and others, what was the thought that preceded it? That thought that preceded it is an untruth of the mind. It's trying to create separation. It's trying to create judgment, criticism. It's trying to blame. It's trying to complain. It's trying to turn me into the victim and that person into the perpetrator, or me into the perpetrator and that person into the victim. So that's where guilt comes into it as well. So through the eyes of love, how could I see this? How am I believing an untruth of the mind? Now, this is a very conceptual process, but it's also around the mindfulness as well too. Okay, so this will be a really interesting week for you. Some of you may be able to find it, some of you maybe not, but this also is around mindfulness, awareness, and leading you to where we are in the next chapters. Because what we're doing now is, we've become aware of the mind, how it works, and we're still finding its little nuances and fine-tuning here. We're going to start to, rather than watch what's being placed upon our path, we're going to then start to move towards of, I want to pre-pave my path. Okay? It sounds a little bit out there, but this is where we're going, and this is a beautiful shifting of the energies within the chapters and the learnings as well. Okay? So enjoy. I'll see you next week.